Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Game Pulse. Open worlds in video games. They're the ultimate playground for developers. Each one tries to create something vast, beautiful, and overflowing with content. It's all about keeping gamers engaged for hours on end. So, what's on the horizon for 2026? Let's dive in and find out. Make sure you're subscribed and let's get started. Let's kick things off with the new 6th installment of the Forza Horizon racing series, where all the action takes place on the roads of Japan. The story starts with a tourist arriving in the country and gradually making their way to the festival through qualifying rounds, and then growing within the festival itself. This is going to be the largest map in the series so far, featuring a lot of verticality and even different biomes. Plus, there's a big urban area coming in. Tokyo is confirmed, and it's the biggest city location in Horizon. It's about 5 times larger than the city from the 5th game, with several districts, docks, and industrial zones, so we'll always have different types of roads and intersections for races and just cruising around. Plus, there are over 500 different cars, so trust me, there's definitely plenty of room to have some fun here. Mortal Shell 2. It's an action RPG in the spirit of Souls-like games, but with more fluid combat and an open world. The developers clearly describe the world structure. It's all connected in one network of locations, but it'll be compact enough so you can explore smoothly without any empty stretches. Between the larger areas, there will be paths and forks, and for your curiosity, they promise rewards as always. New story segments, strange weapons, and shell upgrades are on the way. By the way, they've also announced more than 60 dungeons. The main idea of the series remains intact and even expands. We find the bodies of forgotten warriors, inhabit them, and gain their strengths and skills. These shells in the game act as ready-made combat roles, each with its own abilities and personality, and part of the story unfolds through the search for memories tied to that specific shell. Since there will be more shells, the game hints at a wider variety of styles. We also play as the Harbinger, a figure from prophecy, who must reclaim the stolen ova from the beings that guard them like sacred treasures, while also toppling the false gods that keep the world in ruins. The game is designed to stand alone, so you can jump in without needing to know the first part. But for those who played before, they promise familiar themes and echoes of old characters. Second Solasta. It's a party role-playing game where we manage a squad of 4 heroes, explore the world, and engage in turn-based combat. The second part is being developed on the 5th Unreal, and along with it, the setting for the series is brand new. Welcome to the land of Nioh, where magic literally hangs in the air. Looming over everything is a threat named Shedwin. The story revolves around how our squad gets caught up in someone else's conflicts, trying to figure out what's going on and who to trust. The game will feature quite a large world map, where we'll choose our routes, unlock new points, and gradually expand our territory. Gameplay-wise, it's just like before. First, we create our heroes, choose their classes and backgrounds, and then we roam the world. Chat, search for solutions, and sometimes get into trouble. As for the early access content, the developers have set some clear boundaries. At launch, only part of the first act will be available. The level cap will be limited to just 4, and they estimate that one playthrough of this section will take around 10 to 15 hours, but the game will definitely expand further until it fully releases. Blood of Dawnwalker is a single-player and RPG with active combat and a huge open world, where we get to choose where to go and what to do. The story takes place in an alternate Europe in the 1400s, when war and the plague have really weakened the people. Vampires take advantage of this, stepping out of the shadows and seizing power in the Vale-Son Mountains area of the Carpathians. We play as Cohen. By day he's a human, but at night he's a vampire, and he has a personal goal: to save his family. The game also has an important time rule. We only have 30 nights to accomplish our main goal. Each time we take on a quest, time moves forward, so we can't just do everything at once, and we have to figure out who to help and what to put off for later. The developers call this a narrative sandbox, because the story unfolds based on how we spend our time and the choices we make, which is pretty interesting. The new Fable is a single-player action RPG with a bit of an open-world vibe. Basically, it's a reboot of the series. The story takes place in Albion again, but it's being told fresh with new heroes and events. The developers call this a new beginning, allowing them to freely create their own version of Albion and share a new story without being tied to the old timeline. The most important system for the open world here revolves around reputation and morality. In each settlement, we'll have our own set of labels that the locals use to remember our behavior. In some places, we might be seen as generous, in others as mean, or even sly. This affects how people talk to us, what quests they give, and more. Plus, the developers explain that reputations can differ from city to city, and we can manage them. For instance, through the town crier, who spreads the latest gossip. Another feature that makes the world feel alive is what's called a living population. There are over 1,000 NPCs with their own roles and schedules, and you can really follow them around all day. They wake up, go to work, hang out, come home to crash, and the devs literally had to provide them with beds and housing, so the settlements function like a system, not just a backdrop. And of course, the typical leveling up, combat, and RPG elements are still very much in play here. So, this is Chrono Odyssey. It's a big MMORPG with one shared world, tons of players, cooperative battles, bosses, leveling up, and more. Actually, based on the latest info, the release window is now set for the end of 2026, but there's no specific date or even day on Steam yet. The world here is called Cetera. It's designed as a single map without being chopped up into small levels. An important feature of the series that sets this game apart from most MMOs is this thing called the Chronotector. It's an artifact for managing time, linked to both combat and exploration. In battle, Chrono Odyssey aims to be closer to action. There are dodges, timings, active skills, and all that. More manual control, less auto attacks. Basically, it's in the style of old MMOs. The Chronotector fits in really well. You can freeze an enemy for a short time, rewind a couple of seconds, redo a moment, and pull off a more effective combo. They're claiming 6 classes: Swordsman, Ranger, Magic Paladin, Berserker, and of course, Assassin. It seems like the game isn't going to be free to play, which is a huge plus, and it's likely going to be sold on a buy-to-play model, meaning you pay once and play as much as you want. But of course, in-game purchases in a shop won't be going away in that case. BLACKFROST. The Long Dark 2 is the sequel to the original The Long Dark. It's survival in an open world, where this time the devs are adding co-op. The story takes place a year after the Aurora, a strange phenomenon in the sky that caused all electronics to stop working. Zelindarte is the northern industrial city of Harmond, and its vast surroundings, featuring streets and neighborhoods, roads and farms, forests and wastelands. You'll be able to roam the world solo or with friends, searching for food, warm clothes, and shelter, gradually learning how people survive in this quiet apocalypse. The mechanics follow the familiar formula of Zelindar, where cold, hunger, thirst, fatigue, and injuries matter, but now there's an urban part added in. The city presents its own dangerous situations, while the wild nature and harsh winter conditions remain outside its borders. The devs specifically mention extreme weather. There are aurora storms, and the radioactive black frost coming from the reactor complex near Harmond. Another big new feature is the will to life system. It adds a psychological aspect to survival. Besides the usual health status, there's now a resilience meter that drops from fear and traumatic events, and rises from rest and simple comforts like warmth and safety. Overall, it should be pretty interesting. Chronicles Medieval, a game set in medieval Europe, where the developers mix an open world, character leveling, and large battles with army management. In short, they're creating a sandbox. We create our character and start literally from scratch, with no titles and no army. From there, the game throws opportunities our way to travel the world, take on quests, chat with locals, participate in skirmishes, and climb the social ladder. Just like in some Bannerlord game, we can command armies and swing our sword in third person. We recruit people, train squads, and then enter battle alongside our warriors. The developers also mention castle building. We can construct them and then hold them when others start vying for control. It's launching in early access, but the game will already be fully playable with key systems, and they plan to expand it based on player feedback, which is pretty cool overall. Here we have an action RPG from a first-person perspective set in a medieval fantasy world, where the main focus is on melee combat and using everything around as a weapon. The story kicks off with a simple premise. We're the younger son of a minor lord, without any glory or influence. But a strange series of goblin raids on the border of our lands gives us a chance to step up. We set off to investigate, meeting people in villages and castles along the way, making choices in dialogues and actions, and gradually earning respect for our family. One interesting feature is that while combat is pretty standard, instead of magic, there's alchemy, which sounds like a huge system for experimentation. You can follow recipes or mix ingredients however you like, and then use the results in various ways, like throwing them as bombs, applying them to weapons like oil, or even stashing them in a pocket for a non-player character. In short, there should be a lot of variety. And soon, Enshrouded will be fully released. It's a survival game with crafting and building, where we run around a big world, gathering resources, making gear, and setting up our base. Right now, the game is in early access, but over the past couple of years, it has almost doubled in size and is set to get even bigger this year. They promise new open areas on the map at launch to really expand exploration. We're going to have more locations worth going to for rare materials, quests, and tougher enemies. The biggest thing on the roadmap is adventure sharing. Basically, it's a mode that lets you share your world and builds with other players right from the game. They're planning to roll this system out in early access before version 1.0, and at launch, they promise a more advanced version with tools for creating your own challenges like traps, spawners, and other logical elements for triggers and mechanisms. Another important thing is that version 1.0 for Enshrouded is seen as the start of the next phase, not the final destination. The developers are clear about ongoing support after release with free updates and paid expansions, so the game will keep growing even after it leaves early access. Subnautica Below Zero, the next installment in the underwater survival series. The setting is once again an alien planet, but this time it's a totally new oceanic world. We swim across a massive map, dive deeper, discover different areas with unique terrain and wildlife, and piece together the story. The gameplay sticks to the classic Subnautica formula: survival through resource gathering and crafting various gadgets. From what we find, we create tools, upgrade our diving gear, and build bases to store supplies while gradually venturing deeper. At the same time, we explore where to find rare materials, how to safely reach new zones, or which creatures are aggressive and which just get in the way. Movement and progress are also tied to technology. The descriptions clearly mention crafting vehicles and various upgrades, and in the developer blogs, they've already highlighted a new underwater vehicle called Tadpole. So yeah, it's all pretty much the same as before. At first, we swim with just our bare hands, then we gather more serious gear to stay underwater longer, carry more resources, and access places we couldn't reach before. But the biggest new feature for this series is full co-op. You can play solo or with up to 4 people. The second Outward game, which I actually got to try out during a closed test. And let me tell you, the game looks even more interesting than the first one, even though not much is available for testing. You can expect an open world with survival elements where we play as an ordinary person, not some chosen hero. The main idea here is that exploring the world requires preparation. Food, water, sleep, and weather are all really important. So we're constantly thinking about supplies and where to set up camp. There are no fast travel options or rideable animals at all, so the route and pace of the journey really matter. The combat system with energy is quite complex, and even magic here isn't just a button for fireworks. It's a system with actions and consumables where we place or draw something, activate it, and only then does the spell come out. Another signature feature, which has become a hallmark of the series, is the backpack. We carry food, potions, tents, and loot in it, and we definitely need to keep an eye on the weight. Plus, in a fight, we can drop the backpack on the ground to move faster. Just don't forget to pick it up later. Defeats are also handled interestingly here. After a knockout, the story often continues, but the consequences stick around, and sometimes losing a battle isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a new story. Overall, it's a cool thing. It's a shame they're not planning to bring in any language options yet, but I think they'll fix that up pretty quickly. Oh, and yeah, co-op is still available for 2 players, just like before. The third MIOH is an action RPG from Team Ninja featuring third-person battles in large open areas, which the developers call Open Field. This is supposed to be one of Team Ninja's biggest projects for 2026, unless they've got some surprises up their sleeves. In the story, we play as Tokugawa Takatio, a young warrior aiming to become the next shogun during the Sengoku period, a time when wars and power struggles ruled Japan. The conflict arises from within the family. His younger brother Kunimatsu gathers forces, gets support from a dark side, and leads yokai, Japanese demons and spirits, to disrupt the inheritance. The story then weaves through different eras. The hero is guided by a spirit protector, Kusanagi, and we jump between various periods and regions, including Sengoku, Heian, and even Bakumatsu, which covers the final years of the samurai era in the 19th century. The open world is designed as a series of large zones where you can roam freely, search for paths, check out villages, and encounter tough opponents scattered across the map. And what's really cool is the main feature of the combat that the developers are promoting. Two styles, samurai and ninja. Sounds familiar, right? The samurai style is more aligned with classic Nioh, while the ninja style focuses on speed and quick movements. Jumping attacks, dodges, and ninjutsu techniques. Think Naruto. So, let's see how it all turns out. Windrose is a pirate survival game set in an open world, which was previously called Crosswind. The developers are promising an early access launch this year. We play as a courier who was betrayed and abandoned, and now we have to survive and figure out who did this and why. Along the way, we get caught up in a huge conflict involving empires and pirate factions, and it's a big pirate world out there, filled with tons of islands, bays, ruins, and more. At sea, we control a ship, fire cannons, board enemy vessels, and can jump right into land battles without needing a separate mode. The developers even mention various ship classes from small to large, and the idea that having a crew on board is also important. There's construction and crafting here, allowing us to build shelters, turn them into working outposts, stockpile food and supplies, and upgrade our gear. The cool part is that we can recruit and expand our crew, passing off some of the routine tasks to these folks to save time on repetitive actions. So mostly the focus will be on PvE, so don't expect intense PvP battles involving pirates. Crimson Desert by Perlov. It's a single-player adventure with an open world and real-time combat, where we play as a mercenary and ride across a huge continent. We take on missions and dive into major conflicts. We're in the role of Cliff McDuff, a fighter from the Greymane squad. Right at the start, they get hit by a night ambush from enemies called the Black Bears. Some of our people don't make it, while others end up scattered all over the place. And then Cliff sets off across the continent to gather the survivors, rebuild, and deal with those responsible. The open world here is called Fable. It's supposed to be a mix of vast wild territories, cities, and ancient ruins, where we constantly find reasons to veer off the path. To keep the world from being all about fighting, there's a ton of simpler activities like cooking, fishing, resource gathering, little puzzles, searching for useful stuff off the main story. There's supposed to be a ton of extra content, and the developers recently said the level of optimization is almost perfect, so it might really turn out to be a good game. Solarpunk. Survival and crafting in a world of floating islands. We're building a base, growing food, making useful stuff, and slowly turning this little corner into a comfy place to live. The open world here is set up like a chain of islands in the sky, and the main idea is that we can move between them on our airship. The airship is our transport and way to reach new biomes, rare resources, and new building spots. On the islands, the crafting is pretty typical, everything's straightforward, but what's way more interesting is that there's energy and automation. We turn on the power system from the sun, wind, and water, then connect a device so some of the routine stuff happens automatically, like gathering resources or watering the plants. Automation here means you only have to set up the chain once, and then it runs without constant manual actions. Plus, the fact that they're adding co-op to the game just makes it even more exciting. Lego Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight. This is an open-world adventure, and yeah, it's Lego. The main setting here is definitely Gotham City, which is perfect for free roaming and exploring. You've got streets, rooftops, alleyways, and neighborhoods with different designs, plus transportation options. The story kicks off with Bruce Wayne's journey to becoming Batman, training with the League of Shadows, returning to the city, and facing the first big wave of problems as various villains start to cause chaos. A key part of progress in these LEGO games usually revolves around different characters and costumes providing unique abilities, and they highlight this with a bonus costume for pre-ordering and a promise of a large collection of costumes in the game itself. And if you want to play with a friend, there's co-op too. Personally, I'm not a huge LEGO fan, but it's clear that it has its dedicated audience. Light No Fire is a new game from Hello Games, the studio behind No Man's Sky. The idea here is that it's an open-world adventure where we explore, build, gather resources, and survive on a fantasy planet that's about the size of our actual Earth. The developers describe this mix as a sandbox survival freedom, and it includes RPG elements where the hero's journey is shaped by our actions. There's only one planet, but it's massive. We've got continents, mountains, forests, and huge oceans. The goal is to choose a direction and venture far, discovering new zones and materials along the way. Sure, part of the world is procedurally generated, but it's still shared among all players. By the way, you might run into other players, team up with them, build settlements, or leave structures that will stand in this world forever. It all sounds at least pretty interesting. Railborn. It's a survival and building game where your base is a train. We gather this train piece by piece, searching for resources in the world, and then we turn them into new modules and useful items. Crafting here means a simple chain. Found some materials, made an item, placed it on the train, and now we have a new option, like for storage, a workshop, or part of the life support system. Usually when it comes to trains, you wouldn't think about an open world, but here the train travels along a network of tracks that go in different directions, and the route affects what resource zones we'll encounter next. And of course, we get to choose them. The most unique part of Railborn is the biome cars. The developers promise that you can create different environments within the train, like farms for rare plants, greenhouses, and other living modules, so you can carry a piece of normal life with you on the road, which is really cool. It also kind of reminds you of Voitron, of course, with its train, but the style here is totally different. Alright, so to wrap things up, let's talk about the sixth GTA. You definitely can't skip mentioning it in this lineup. We're heading to Vice City and the entire state of Leonida, which means a big area around the city, not just one major metropolis. The plot centers around a couple of main characters, Jason Duwally and Lucia Caminos, who end up in a big crime story. The developers are keeping gameplay details under wraps for now, but the core idea of the series is still there. We're cruising freely through the world, diving into stories and missions, making money, buying and trying out new stuff, and in the meantime, unexpected things keep happening, because the city is alive with tons of people going about their business. The most notable promise about the story has already been officially stated. A simple scheme for our heroes goes sideways, and they get caught up in a conspiracy that spans the entire state. So far, it's been announced that the game will initially release only on consoles, and there's no official word yet on a PC version, but we all know it will show up sooner or later.